Time now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Backyard Musings, broadcasting live from our living room in Apple Valley, California. Normally, we're in the backyard, but we have lighting issues. We have a special guest, Pinball Preparedness, Mr. Pinball himself. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks for being on our show today.
We really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you here.
Yep. And you guys have got some history, right?
We do. We're Army buddies. So us Army buddies were texting last night and this morning, and then Pinball picked up the phone and called me, and we started chatting. Like, yeah, let's get Pinball on today. And so before we launch into talking about this is a special edition, before we launch into talking about the assassination attempt, breaking news: the Judge Cannon in the classified documents case in Florida has dismissed the case without prejudice. Based on the appointment of Jack Smith was unconstitutional. So just to give you give you some background, special counsels have to be appointed by the president and approved by the Senate before becoming a special counsel. So like a U.S. attorney is appointed by the president and approved by the Senate. So the DOJ, A.G. Garland, could appoint any U.S. attorney to be special counsel, and that would be legit. But here, AG, to try and create an illusion of comporting with the Constitution, A.G. Garland just plucked someone off the street, Jack Smith, the bulldog, and put him on the case. So,
and they used the premise, I guess, that he was an appointee from the Trump time, right?
Yeah, but it didn't hold water.
Yeah, that's like
hold water.
That's like this kid that shot the president that claims to be a Republican. So
so that's good news. Hopefully, we'll hear from the appeal in the New York case.
So and going back to what you're saying though, now so the Senate obviously did not approve him. I mean, they probably would have, but
he wasn't appointed by the president either.
Oh,
he was
just
gone.
Oh, Garland just
there was no authorization for Merrick Garland to appoint a special counsel. So therefore his appointment was, for all intents and purposes, illegal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's why I was thrown out. So hopefully we'll hear some good news from DC about the J6 obstruction, whatever, for that case that.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of blown up too. Did you hear about Benny Thompson's one of Benny Thompson's?
Yeah,
making some kind of.
I got the quote here.
Comment.
One of his staffers said, "I don't condone violence, but please get you some shooting lessons so you don't miss next time." Oops, that wasn't me. She got fired immediately. Bye bye. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna go into our segment. Nice little segue. We want to talk about the assassination attempt against Mr. Trump, President Trump. And Pinball, we were talking this morning about the rooftop. Tell us how close the rooftop was to the president on stage.
From everything that I have seen, satellite imagery and everything, they measured this thing out. The shooter, when they picked him off, when they found him dead, basically where he was 152 yards from where the podium was. That's nothing. You know as well as I do, Steve. I mean, 20 rounds into basic training and you could hit 150 no problem.
Right, that's 150 meters too. 150 yards, 150 meters. So
roughly,
that target is very doable. We've done that in basic training. I've got 21 years in the service, and I've had to qualify twice every year. And as a cadet, we qualified twice every semester. So a lot of firearms. Those targets are really easy to hit. Not sure why the shooter was aiming for the head. We're always taught to aim center of mass. Probably would have had a severe injury if he would have hit center mass instead of, grazing the head.
Well, maybe he was. I mean, I heard one of his
maybe the sights was off.
One of his classmates or whatever said that I guess at this particular school that they went to, they had a rifle club.
Yeah.
And he didn't make it. He didn't cut it for that.
What, did he get training?
Well, no. Well, obviously, I think this weapon belonged to his dad. So probably had some shooting
basic rifle marksmanship, not necessarily on that weapon.
Right. But it's just that maybe he's just not that good.
Breath control.
Or the other thing, like you said, is if he was, using his father's weapon, it wasn't zeroed for him.
That's correct.
That could be too.
That's correct. And you got trigger control, breath control, sight alignment. We don't know if there was a scope. If it was iron sights, you've got that
Right.
Rear reticle, and you got to line up the post right center.
And honestly, what's your heart rate when you're trying to shoot somebody at literally the president? You know, you are nervous beyond belief, plus all the stories that a cop had popped up behind him and he was spotted, and so now he was rushed to shoot. You know,
yeah, let's talk about that. So we don't know. I don't know how he got up on the roof. We think it's a ladder, but people were pointing. There's a guy up there. There's a guy up there.
Right.
Local law enforcement went over, and for what I understand, one of the officers got on the back of another officer and kind of looked up. Shooter saw him, pointed the gun. Officer got out of the way, fell down.
Yeah, well,
and then now the adrenaline is kicking. You turn around and you aim. I was telling Scott that first shot is the best shot, the very first one.
Right.
The second one, you're like all over the place trying to, at least you're not pulling, charging handle the rear.
Right.
Yeah, the report that I first heard about that police officer encounter with this guy was that it was a cowardly encounter. I mean, he ran from the scene. But like
that was
you
debunked.
said, that was debunked. So, that like you just said, that kind of probably charged the guy up a little bit.
I'm going to stop you.
What do you think, Pinball?
I'm going to stop you there for a second. That was debunked. I don't buy the debunking for a second. Yeah. We've all seen the picture of how that building is. Okay, Steve, you know how tall I am. If you were on my shoulders, how high is your head?
My head is I'm at 5'10", so I would be at your shoulders would be about 6 foot. So that'd be about 11 and a half feet.
Right. How high was that building?
I don't know the height.
Oh, you're talking about him being up there to be able to actually encounter him?
No, I'm saying the debunked story where one cop was on top of another cop's shoulders and looking over the top. No, that's spin. That's complete crap, because that building, if you look at any of the pictures, that building's probably got a 20-foot high roof line. So unless the cop was on another cop's shoulders while the first cop was climbing a ladder, no.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if Steve was standing on my shoulders. That would get him 12 feet high.
Yeah.
13 feet high. So the story of, he popped his head over the top. The guy turned and put his rifle to him and he fell back over his shoulders. Come on. How stupid are you?
Yeah, it doesn't carry water.
Yeah, it doesn't
think about it.
It doesn't hold water whatsoever. Somebody went up the ladder, the cop backed down.
And probably fell off the ladder.
Not saying that, if somebody points a rifle at me, I'm not backing down too.
Yeah.
But that should also be right up top again and fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe it startled him and he fell. Maybe he fell off the ladder.
Yeah, maybe he fell off the ladder, but no, he was not on somebody else's shoulders. That's a crock of shit.
Yeah, and talking about the encounter or even the building, I'm thinking, 150 yards is not that far to be away, to not be covered by the security team that would be assigned. So why did they leave that particular building
it was
up
outside
to
of the perimeter?
I guess
they had a controlled perimeter where people walk in and get wanded. And from what I've heard, Secret Service was responsible for inside the perimeter. Local police were responsible for outside the perimeter.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think I told you. I looked up this.
The police
force?
The
Butler Township Police Force. It's like 20 guys.
Yeah, they should have had state assets.
And maybe they did. I don't know that, but it's.
We'll find that out.
Yeah, that'll all come out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So.
But let's go back here for a second, okay? About checking out the outside the area. We can go back to, I don't know, a book depository maybe.
Yeah.
You think that the Secret Service in 61 years might have an idea of, maybe we want to look more than just inside the perimeter. Because I don't know, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, Pope John Paul, can we continue and continue and continue with somebody who has been shot?
Close range.
Right, exactly. You know, this 20-year-old kid who, like you said, failed to make the rifle team. He's not. They're not making a movie called American Sniper after him.
Right.
You know, he's not hitting a target from a mile away. 150 freaking yards.
Right. And I was having this discussion with my wife this morning, and she was asking me about, how did they shoot this guy? And I said, well, I believe they did have counter snipers, though,
Yeah,
right?
they did.
Yes.
And again, I'm not an expert at anything like that, but watching American Sniper, like you just said, I mean, those guys are set up, and there's a guy with a binoculars, and then there's a guy on the gun with a scope, and they're constantly looking and watching for movement and firing. So, I mean, I think they got the guy within a reasonable amount of time of after him firing, right? And you could tell from the sound. Again, I'm not trying to nitpick all this stuff, but you could tell from the sound that it wasn't a huge caliber rifle that he was shooting. It almost sounded like maybe
5.56.
22, 223, 5.56, something, relatively small. I mean, not that they don't put off a bang, but I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, that's it. It's not like he was out there with a 308 or something like that.
Yeah, big.
He didn't have. Sure, there are some people that can hit a target at 500 yards with a 22 or something like that. Okay, but they're few and far between. You don't have any snipers being trained with small caliber rounds for distance shots.
Yeah,
But the bigger catch to that is the Secret Service agents saying they were told to stand down, to not shoot after they saw the guy. And then somebody actually came out and said it's Secret Service protocol that they are not allowed to shoot until after somebody shoots.
What is up with that?
Rule of engagement.
Right, rules of engagement. So then, right, and I agree with Scott. What's up with that? Here's the issue, and I've had conversations with a couple of people about this already. No, we don't want a police force of any, Secret Service, police, FBI, whatever, shooting somebody on sight because they have a gun. No. Okay. At that point, I mean, God knows how many times I'd have been shot by now. But on the other side of the fence is this is a secured area.
Right.
Yes. If somebody's got a gun in a secured area where you just let tens of thousands of people in and metal detected them all to make sure they have no weapon, if some guy's got a weapon anywhere within your view, they're a threat. And I've heard the comment then made, well, gee, if somebody flies an airplane over the White House or whatever, they don't just shoot it down, they try to guide it out first. Do you think those F-16s aren't armed and hot?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say
that's it. Anything that's close, it's getting shot down. They were talking about shooting down the planes on 9/11, the passenger jets.
Right. Yeah. If you wouldn't identify yourself or, you weren't supposed to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just going to mention that White House is a great example of that. They, because they've had a couple of those, right? They had that one kid that flew his little Cessna or whatever. And yeah. But anyway, I mean, again, it's like one of those deals, those intersection deals. There's no traffic light at an intersection until enough people die. They'll probably be doing that now, I would think, right? They're probably going to be somebody's 150, 200, 300 yards out. They're going to.
You would think the protocol would be if he can't fire, get on the horn and say, go check this out. Rooftop, 150.
Especially when there's multiple people going, there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah. And maybe they were, and we just haven't heard about it yet.
How did he get from his car, which had explosive in it, to the roof without being detected?
Thank you. That's the question I've posed to many, many people. The guy supposedly had explosive devices in his car.
Right.
So we know he drove there. So how did he get from his car to a building, climb a ladder with an AR-15, which he didn't, obviously is too big to stick in your pocket. So he didn't have a trench coat on.
Right.
So here's a guy, in summertime, you have a trench coat on, like I said to you this morning, Steve, that might raise a little suspicion. How did he, in broad daylight, because this happened at 6:30 at night, so it's not like he camped out on the roof there for 15 hours. How did he get there without anybody in a place where security was probably set up days, if not weeks in advance?
You'd hope so.
Well,
I mean,
I think it's going to come out in the investigation, because people were saying there's someone up there. There's someone up there. So maybe at the last second they saw him climbing up there. But I think the investigation is going to show that from the eyewitness testimony.
Okay,
When he was detected.
then I'll throw this one at you. The investigation. Let's go into the Warren Commission. It was 60 years till we heard an inkling of the truth of what happened in 1963. In 60 years, I'll be 117. I'd like to know before then.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff has been kind of buried. I don't know. There's been some negative comments about the Secret Service as well, with some of the training and all that kind of stuff that they've done. And again, I'm not an expert on that, but some people that claim to be or have been Secret Service have made the comments that force has, say, slacked up a little bit. So I don't know.
I wonder if DIE is involved in that.
That was a couple
diversity,
of
inclusion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With all the DEI hires, where you had the director of the Secret Service saying, well, we're going to have 30% of our staff is going to be women by, what was it, 2025 or 2026? Or that's great. Okay. No problem. But then you look at the pictures, the infamous picture of Trump with his fist up.
Right.
You know why we have that picture?
Trump's a woman, right?
Trump's 6'2". The woman who was on his right arm as they were trying to get him is like 5'6".
And crouched over. And
crouched over. So that's the reason you can see Trump, because there isn't somebody blocking him out, which is the whole point of the Secret Service, is to block him out. If there was a second shooter, which there were, Ambassador Tam said there was, who ran off into the woods, that was never confirmed. If there was a second shooter, we're not having this conversation about attempted assassination.
Yeah.
Because
and you can see that gap. You can see that gap where that woman was. I mean, because there were some big guys up there.
Right.
The Secret Service did have some big guys up there, but
I mean, I weigh 285 pounds. I've got to think Trump's probably 250. Okay. I'm sorry. There's not a 5'6" woman in the world who's going to sit there and carry him or carry me.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And they can talk whatever they want about equality and equity and all this crap. I'm sorry. There's certain places in life where gender matters.
Yeah. Well,
just because of the biology of it.
I mean, and if I have a security team, I want somebody that's going to cover all my body parts, not just
right,
my head exposed or whatever. And obviously, this guy, like we talked about at the beginning, is either going for the head or just not a very good shot. And I mean, what are you talking about? Maybe 1.5 inches one way or the other, and half of his head is gone.
Yeah. I mean, if you've seen some of the pictures, the way he turned his head, I mean, the forensic pictures that they've already taken from the hospital, if he wouldn't have turned his head to go look at the screen, it would have basically gone from ear through the center of the back of his head. But because he turned his head, it came right across the top of his ear.
Yeah, he'd be dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you imagine the conversation we are having here now, nearly 48 hours later. Today, I mean, just before you guys came on, I was watching the beginning of the convention. You imagine the conversation we're having right now. if that kid was successful.
Yeah, it'd be dour and solemn.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it wouldn't be that. It would be duck and cover, not dour and solemn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't even want to think about that because I mean, and we've talked in the past about there's enough crazy loony people out there that I mean, I'm surprised it's taken this long actually for somebody to take a crack at him.
Yeah. So what do you think moving forward? Do you think Democrats are going to keep the vitriol of calling us Nazis and comparing him to Hitler and a dictator, or is that going to drop off?
In the last couple of days, it has dropped off because all those that have been calling it all of a sudden are getting knocks on the door by the Secret Service. Like you mentioned, Scott, at the top about the Mississippi congressman's staffer. But I mean, there are comments all over the place from, I mean, and you see the videos. There's been people that have gone and called these people out. The cashier at Home Depot who said the same thing. Some bartender, I think it was in Wisconsin, that the company came out and said that those are his views, not ours. You had university professors, healthcare workers, et cetera, are all getting called out on social media. And all of a sudden, the knock on the door is coming from Secret Service or the FBI, for making comments like, gee, I'm sorry he missed. Okay.
Yeah. And earlier in my lifetime, that used to be kind of a norm, right? I mean, if you made any derogatory comment like that, like you were going to knock him off. And for whatever reason, it seemed like at about the time of the Trump era, it stopped because I mean there was a lot of celebrities
knocking on the door. You mean?
Well, yeah, they weren't taking it seriously. Like when
Kathy Griffin,
Kathy Griffin, and the Judd, Ashley Judd. I mean, they were making a lot of
Madonna said
right.
The White House.
Madonna blowing up the White House. Maxine Waters saying "get in their face" and
exactly
pushback.
So it definitely took a left turn when all that stuff was flying. And so I mean, and now look at what we did. We just had what's his name, Joe Scarborough, and his wife taken off. They got pulled for 24 hours.
Yep.
Were they afraid that they were going to open up and unload? And I mean, that's like probably their MSNBC. That's probably their number one rated show. I guess I don't know. And if so,
that'll tell you how little MSNBC matters.
Yeah, they're 500 viewers. Yeah,
right.
But anyway, it's nuts. It's definitely a different world, and that's like I said, I'm surprised that it's because as exposed as Trump is at these rallies, I mean he's wide open, and obviously that showed it. Yeah, it showed it the other day.
Has been. Wonder what changes are going to be made when he goes to rally, like bulletproof glass.
I don't know. Yeah,
well,
they built a Pope-mobile for the Pope. So.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. Is what changes, because no matter what happened. I mean, granted, they could. There was somebody said, well, gee, just put a Band-Aid on his ear, and he only got hit in the ear or whatever. He was out golfing yesterday morning at 9:00 in the morning. He made his tee time. He was on the plane yesterday to go to Milwaukee. That's the physical. What about the psychological?
Yeah.
That's the thing that you got to look at is how is he, Melania, Barron, Eric, Don Jr., any of the kids, I got shot 24 days ago. Granted, it just hit my ear. I've never been shot. A whole lot of people can't relate to being shot. Trump can say, I was shot. And he's right. He was. How does that affect him? How does that change him? Not necessarily his message, not the security, how security is going to handle or anything like that. How does it change him? How does it change the Biden campaign? Knowing that what they say, and I brought this up the other day, 20-year-old kid who probably listened to all these other 20-year-old TikTok influencers who 2 weeks ago were out there saying the Supreme Court just authorized Joe Biden to assassinate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And somebody takes that seriously. Or Biden saying, what, 8 days ago now, we need to stop talking about the debates and put Trump in the bullseye.
Yeah, he said that on July 8th.
Yeah.
And there was, I've got a quote from X. Harry Sisson said Biden could send in the military to take out Trump.
Right.
Someone believes it. Maybe a follower is going to act on it.
That's exactly my point. You know, somebody saying something like that. It's like, well, gee, you don't need to send the military, or gee, I can put a bullseye on him, or what. And all of a sudden, that's what happens. You know, you have words are powerful. People don't realize how I say something, how you take it, Steve, and how Scott takes it could be totally different.
Yeah.
Right.
And if one of you took it as, okay, I understand he's kind of being, you know, a little playful with it, and the other one's going, bullseye? I can do a bullseye.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and not necessarily just Trump, but some of those family members that you mentioned.
Yeah.
How much security do they have?
And RFK has none.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And to get a guy out of a race, you could obviously affect somebody in his family, and that would be, because I'm sure he's getting an earful from his wife. I know I would be.
Oh yeah.
You know, and his family as well. So,
he's
a tough guy. He is a tough guy. So I just, you know.
Well, then you also get the fact that the reason you had mentioned this before, Scott, is that the reason that they had a lot of local cops and state cops and stuff like that, sheriff's department there, was because some of the detail from Trump's security Secret Service was pulled. Oh, they've been working too hard. They work 7 days in a row. We need to pull them because
in court,
because Jill Biden needed security. So they pulled people off Trump's detail and put it on hers.
Yeah, and that's another. Speaking of that, I heard that Mayorkas has kind of been holding back on supplying.
No changes were made to the RNC security.
Yeah, so I mean, what is up with that? Again, that's just, now those are the kind of things you can zero in on and say that's blatant. You know, they should, especially after this incident, they should be piling it on overtime.
The Secret Service budget per year is $3.2 billion. Wow,
that's
How many?
That's a lot of.
How many people are? I mean, and you got to understand what the Secret Service is. This is what people don't get. The Secret Service is not a police force. Their job is not to investigate crimes. Their job is literally to prevent crimes. They're not out there going, where are the fingerprints? That's the FBI. The Secret Service is there to go, let's make sure there is no crime.
Yeah. They go in days ahead of time and maybe weeks ahead of time and make sure, look for all the spots like this rooftop that could be used and get all those things covered before. Yeah, I was listening to Dan Bongino one time and he was explaining all that, hey, we don't just show up in a black car when the president shows up. We're there
in advance,
days ahead,
weeks, months ahead.
Yeah, and then they even stick around after, then they're back. So
did they lose the mission of investigating counterfeit money? Was that taken away from the Secret Service?
Oh, I don't know.
Because that used to be, they used to investigate counterfeit.
Is that part of the Treasury Department
when they were part of the Treasury?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I haven't heard that in years, whether or not they still do it. So I don't know. But I mean, again, the main mission of the Secret Service is protecting dignitagens. I mean, whether it's Netanyahu coming or Zelensky or whatever it is, that's their job. What's going to be really interesting, this is what I'd like to see happen. I want to see Trump hire his own security personnel, pay for it out of campaign funds, and fire the Secret Service. And tell everybody in Washington, this is what's coming. We're going to hire people who are actually capable of doing a job, not some DEI hire, not some career government employee. I'm going to hire somebody who actually knows what they're doing, because you know what? My life depends on it.
Yeah. And my family's.
Yeah. And say, okay, Secret Service, you're not up to the job. You're fired. IRS, you're not up to the job. You're fired. 87,000 armed IRS agents? Really? Okay. Gee, maybe we could do something to, oh, I don't know, the Department of Homeland Security, who obviously can't do their job. I mean, I personally want to see Trump, when he is elected, go scorched earth and just say, gone.
Yeah, DHS gone.
As long as the Department of Education is the first one, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, there's that's another one that needs to go. You know.
But yeah, I could see
you
that.
could put TSA
of,
back in transportation. You could put Secret Service back in Treasury. You could parcel that up. Is it really necessary to have that?
So you're talking about hiring like guys like contractors, special contractors, like
private.
Private contractors. So
yeah, that would be
like
interesting.
The guys that were in Benghazi.
That would be interesting. Yeah. SEALs.
Well, I mean, obviously, you're not going to hire private contractors to run the Treasury or something like that.
No.
But we need to get rid of the career government employees who are. I mean, the woman out there at the in Pennsylvania the other day who couldn't holster a weapon. The other one who was adjusting her sunglasses while the shooting is going on.
It's good you bring that up.
Yeah, you can rate that.
Or holding the hat. She grabbed the hat and she was holding the hat, the MAGA hat.
Yeah. This is important. I mean, I don't care where your hat is. I don't care where your shoes are. You know, why it took 2 minutes to get him off the stage, I have no freaking clue. Okay. You know, I'm sorry, but
maybe they had to reach consensus how to do it.
Yeah, in a situation like that, I don't care if you're the president, the former president, whatever. I'm Secret Service. I'm in charge. You do what I tell you right now.
Yeah. The other thing that was kind of astounding, watching that video clip, was the crowd, the reaction of the crowd. I mean, some of the guys were standing up and trying to get a better look.
Yeah.
And
some were
just hanging out. Yeah, there were people ducking down, but man, I tell you, I would have thought they would have, I mean, it could have been ugly if they did, but just, get the heck out of there.
But where do you go? There's 500 people in front of you. I mean, we've seen the stories of concerts before where people got trampled. I mean, it was actually better. And I mean, one of the things I think that calmed the crowd down, because we all heard the tape, picking up on Trump's microphone, shoot her down. I mean, the people knew over the loudspeaker within seconds of Trump putting his hand up on his ear, the shooter was down. Okay. Threat neutralized.
Yeah. Obviously they had good guys on the sniper
team, counter
right?
sniper team.
Yeah. Once they were given authorization to shoot, or once it's like, okay, shots fired, done. But why they didn't take out the threat before the shots were fired, that is up to Congress to figure that one out.
Yeah, well, they haven't been able to figure out much, so hopefully they can.
Yeah,
they'll send another strongly worded letter.
Yeah.
All right, Pinball. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Yeah,
really appreciate it. Sorry, the subject was not something a little bit more fun, but this is a good one. So appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one, guys.
All right, take care. Thank you.
See ya.